you're also able to access what a person's soul, what their soul agreement was before they incarnated here on Earth. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
I love this question. I'm dropping in to channel this one. So it's our great privilege to, that's coming directly from the guides right now.
That's not really what the soul contract says. So, what exactly are some of the things that people do obligate to experience?
It's one of the most fascinating things that you can attain literally from your Akashic Records.
If people are coming into a time where they don't know their purpose or they feel like they lost their purpose, how does one really tap into being more in alignment with their purpose?
Well, I think like follow your gut because it will be your best friend.
How does one raise their vibration and then is able to stay there?
Yeah, I mean, I think they're kani abakia na awaria kawania apak.
How do people live more in alignment?
If that's in the dictionary, a resonant field, and that is what we all have.
Hey y'all, welcome back to Transformation to Expansion. I'm your host, LaJoie Bradley, and today we have a very special guest with us today. I'm so excited. Suzanne Alexandria is here to share her knowledge about channeling, about connecting to the divine feminine, and tapping into Mary Magdalene, which I'm really excited about. Okay, and we're gonna get into like the details of that.
Hi everyone. Well, I am a channel. I am a high priestess of Isis and Mary Magdalene, and I am a trainer and a coach. So I help mostly. I train people how to read and really do powerful activations within the Akashic Records. That's my main program that I run, and I do readings where we ask questions of personal guides, of deceased loved ones, of the council. I channel a very broad council that's called the Council on Harmonization. And so I've been doing this almost, it's coming up on 10 years. But I always like to say I didn't grow up with this knowing, and it turned on very slowly for me, starting like in 2014. So I always like to say that to women, and because I work with a lot of professional women, because I also spent 20 years in Washington D.C. And you don't have to have been doing this your whole life to suddenly, it's very common to either suddenly start experiencing it or slowly start experiencing it. There's no one way that it happens to open, to start channeling, to start doing light language, all of that. So I love watching people really soar through learning how to connect on their own so they can get their own guidance and wisdom. And most of my clients incorporate it into their work as healers or as therapists. I work with a lot of therapists, and it's so fun because they're using the Akashic Records now, and they're pretty much all healer souls. And what happens in their sessions is astonishing when they start doing that. So yeah, it's my greatest joy really to watch people just do, open to what they naturally came here to do. So that's what I like to do.
Activating with the Akashic Records, what do you mean by that? What does that mean to activate yourself using the Akashic Records?
Well, that's something that I don't think a lot of people talk about, but so like I took an Akashic Records class back in maybe 2016 or 16, and did it the normal way where you learn how to access the records. And slowly but surely, I just started realizing and do that I do activations. And I mean, it's taken many years to hone what I do, but my thing is to tap what's called the golden layer of the Akash. And it's that layer where your soul has your blueprint, your divine blueprint, and so much more. But basically, like, there's a layer of you, of all of us, where it's a treasure. It's a treasure trove, and it's very they call it the golden Akash because it's so sacred, and it's where your, your soul path lies. And so it turns out that's my specialty, to access that with people I work with and activate them. So I literally bring them downloads that start to turn on their channel in all different ways, and start to clear out the whole, energy channel from head to toe and then some. um, and I do that with the goddess Isis. Like, all of that is and always has been under the wings of Isis. And so my mystery school is called the Wings of Isis. And it just is how I do it. So when we go into the Akashic field, she's holding space, and we go into a temple. It's like a ethereal pyramid, and it's held also by archangels and other guides. But she is working with my clientele to connect their hearts and their energy centers with their what's called their book of life, and their Akashic records field, and help, like, over time we help them understand that, read that, expand that, and learn how to um, not only see past lives. It used to, I think, classically be about seeing past lives, but we know now those are simultaneous lives, and that,
Mm-hmm.
get kind of interesting in your thinking. But yeah, when it so my activations actually do have to do with what we call past lives, because we are bringing forward people's gifts and bringing forward and, like, connecting. So where you've been psychic or a healer or an oracle or a light language channel, that expertise, if you will, actually gets expedited when you work with me through this, through these activations. And we know we came here with these skills. Like, these skills have been developed over many centuries on the planet in other lifetimes for this time. That's what I believe, and I see it every day, because that's what I'm doing, is helping the women and some men that I work with see themselves in the light of the Akashic records, and bring that in, and and use it in today's, version of themselves. And it's really, I mean, it's really phenomenal, and it's fun, and it's so empowering. And I've just come to really believe in living in a world where our leaders are connected like this. And it's strange how mainstream, like even Akashic Records, seems to be getting these days. Like, it's strangely, like, someone said to me the other day, "Oh yeah, I get a reading every year on my birthday, an Akashic Records reading." And that's just not so, like that. That's awesome to hear, and it's becoming just as common as Reiki, just as common as getting an astrology reading. So
Mm-hmm.
in many ways. So I'm really delighted about that, because one of my big goals is to mainstream all of this. I think it's why I came from a corporate background in Washington D.C. We were talking earlier, and I was very mainstream, and I know business from a very corporate perspective, and um, grew up, like, in business, doing like working for very big firms and such. And um, now I bring, that in back into that kind of workforce. And it's really, I think it's just so powerful, because leaders of all kinds are doing this, are tapping into their intuition. And when we have more and more leaders doing that, the new earth is just going to grow quicker and quicker.
Mm-hmm.
And our expansion is going to be really, so all the more brilliant. So that's really why I do it.
I love that. That's so interesting that you work with a lot of people who work in corporate. I think,
Mhm.
especially for, I would safely say within my generation, and I think younger too, we have like this adversity towards corporate.
Oh, yeah.
And it's so funny because I never, I just never would never have thought that people, like, I feel like a lot of the people who I knew who were in corporate were like secret spiritualists. Like they would never express it at work, but like secretly they'd be like, yeah, I'm gonna get my readings, like, oh, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so it's so interesting that I guess you're finding that there's more and more people who do work in these very straight laced environments, working within the old system, who are interested in
Yeah.
getting an astrology reading, getting the Akashic records. Why do you think that is?
Well, I think the self-help industry has hit them and they go to yoga. They know they've learned like like when I was working in Washington D.C., I religiously went to yoga classes just to remain healthy and sane. And that's where really I started to get spiritually connected and start to understand new things. So there's plenty of that, and then um, I just think women and men have found that, and just as we're expanding, they are too in what they can leverage. And so I think it, it's very much when I work with those women and men, it's like self-care too.
Mm-hmm.
It's like self-care, take care of yourself by getting readings, by doing energy work, by learning how to tap into your intuition. And ultimately, a lot of it just leads to that because they start to realize, oh, I can actually do that, or I want to. So I have managers who start to realize that. And then, like I was a manager for all those years, for 10, 20 years. And then I look back and think, I'm sure on one level I was channeling because I
Mm-hmm.
certainly was very good as a manager of people because I could read a room and I could read people. Now it's completely different, but that's what I find. Like the leaders that I train, they are um, to some extent channeling, and I'm sure most of them have had experiences like most people where something has come out of your mouth and you're like, where did that come from? And it
Mm-hmm.
was a channel. So everyone does it to some extent. It's how much aware you are is your choice, and it's really fun because I will say, like when I train to read and shift energy in the Akashic records, even for therapists, I work a whole lot with therapists, and the way we train them is like you don't have to tell people you're going into their Akashic records. There's ways to tap into the field or access someone's Akashic records like before a session. You don't have to say what you're doing. You can be tuning into their guides and to their higher self and their highest, all for their highest good in a therapy session without even saying it. So you don't even have to come out of the spiritual closet. And it's the same way in business too for managers. So, um, there's just a mix. There's a mix of why people come into it and a mix of ways to leverage all of these tools. All these are their skills. I kind of have been guided to say not even to call them gifts but skills,
Mm-hmm.
because like I said, we've been honing them for many many lifetimes, but also everything is a gift. Like a plumber has a gift of knowing how to do plumbing, but they're skills to do something. And um, we all have the ability to learn how to sharpen that if we're so drawn to it.
Gone to the retreats, sat in ceremonies, even worked with healers. And now you've been told that it's your turn to do the work. Well, this is that next step. I'm so excited to share with y'all that this year we have our first Transformation to Expansion event on September 9th, 2025, where we will be in ceremony together, releasing all the things that are blocking us from truly transforming into the new version of ourselves. So you can really go into 2026 as the new you and stop holding back. This is going to be a really powerful activation, y'all. I really don't want y'all to miss it. If you're one of the first 15 people to sign up, your ticket is completely free. So make sure to check the link in the description below for the link to the ticket for this event. I cannot wait to see y'all there. I love y'all so much. That's so funny because the other day I was thinking, I was like, I feel like businessmen, like, whether or not they're going to admit it, I feel like a lot of them do tap into their intuition. Like, I think some of the most successful businessmen, you can call it training, you can call it practice, but I just know that there's moments where they have to make a quick decision and they have to go off of their intuition. And it's so funny because, like you said, like, I really do believe we always had these gifts. We always had this ability to express them. Maybe they have different names now, you know. But we always had access to those aspects of what I like to call our DNAs. You know, that's
Mhm.
my little theory. I don't think this is really proven scientifically. I did go to school for biology, so I know a little bit about genetics. But
Science is catching up to us.
at the end of the day, anything we're experiencing in this human experience, I just believe it's genes that are expressed and not expressed. This is my theory.
Yeah, I agree with that. And we have the power to change our genes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like you can change the genes that are being expressed.
Yeah.
You could change your genes too. You could do that too. That's a little harder though, but
Well, a lot of the shifts that we do in the records, to be honest, are shifting your DNA. So it literally is it is like it's so strange, but your records are within you and
Mhm.
inside. This is the part where I know what I know, but I don't quite, I like you said, I don't fully understand it, but our DNA is everything, and
Yeah.
our records, our Akashic field is in us too. It's like part of our body, as well as being in the ether and part of our soul out there. And somehow, when we do clearings, we are literally clearing old gene codes and
Mhm.
bringing in new ones, and that's essentially what my activations do. Um, on a kind of like on a DNA level, and
Mhm.
we're rewriting our code, and that code is like built within our DNA. So it's pretty wild.
Yeah, and I feel like that's what a lot of people came to do during this time period. So whether you're young, you're old, you're in between, doesn't matter. Like, we are definitely in a time where everybody has to heal, repair some part of their DNA. Like,
Mhm.
it's unavoidable. And that's the other thing. Just going back to business, I think business has this ability to, whether or not, whatever you want to say, spiritual or not, I don't care. But it really does, because when you're a business owner, it forces you to grow in certain ways.
Mhm.
Whether, you're coming from a background where you've never sold a thing, now you're a business owner, you got to learn how to sell, right? It
Yeah.
really allows you to, yeah, to again express the part of your genes that have laid dormant for so long.
Mhm. Mhm.
um and it really allows you to expand and to grow. Like, it's really really cool, actually.
Yeah, like I'll just take that further too with business, because I agree. I'm every very successful business person is, if they're in alignment, and that means they're channeling inner resources, whether they know it or not. They're like they're getting gut intuition and following it to make really good decisions. And you and I know that spirit has a big role to play in that, whether the business person knows where the brilliant ideas are coming from. They're coming from an array of places, which are spirit sometimes higher self, sometimes the person thinking it up themselves. But absolutely, I think to do anything really well, you're like channeling your highest self and your highest expression and your soul's path. And when you're in alignment, it works and think big things happen. And Mary Magdalene I was just channeling with her this morning, and she was talking about about this very thing and saying, um, we all have a resonant field around us, and that's essentially our auric field. That's our energy field. And I can see that, and it's very complex energetically, like sacred geometry. And we're all in a merkaba, and we all have like our meridians and all our channel, and all of that. But when she was just saying, there it's that's in the dictionary, a resonant field, and that is what we all have. And when you're in resonance with yourself, i.e. your heart and your mind, and you're in cohesion, then that is when your brilliance really shines, no matter what. Even if you're just having fun with your friends, laughing, and you come up with funny jokes or whatever it is. So I think we're all learning so many different ways that being why it's worth it to be in alignment. And we've been doing it all along, and the more we do it feels better, and it's very powerful. So um yeah, I just wanted to say that, that about business. Like when business people in business are leading anything, teachers or anything, tap more and more into this part of them, which then they're on their path, and they're bound to be successful. Not that it's always easier. I mean, life still has its ups and downs, but a lot better. It tends to
Mm,
be.
right. Yeah, right. Like you still have to learn the lessons. Like this is, yeah. You still have to learn the lesson. You still have to grow. Sorry, it doesn't stop there. There's a lot of people who have this moment where they recognize that their life isn't in alignment anymore, or maybe it never was. How do people live more in alignment?
Well, I've spent like the last 10 years working that out with myself and with other people. So, how do you live more in alignment? I think so. For instance, a lot of people would call themselves, they like, the term empath has become very popular. And
Hmm.
I don't really ever use that term, but I'm using it just so you know what I'm talking about. But because we've learned that we can feel, and sometimes it like energy doesn't feel good. The energy in a room, energy around us, often it's energy of the collective. Um, so there's just like a fine art of honing how to stay in alignment, and it's a matter of a lot of things, like noticing if you're out of alignment. For me, it tends to be like you do not feel good, like as far as being an empath might feel. You feel um like there's bad energy, or and I don't believe it's that. It's just like that's my clue that I'm off kilter. So noticing what it is for you that is alignment, and noticing how to get back into alignment is the key. And so I mean, it comes down to all the self-care that we know, like meditating, exercising, being in nature. And for me, like sitting and getting spiritually connected and letting your energy um, get to a vibration that's really supportive. Like that's what I teach because
Hmm.
that's when I feel the best, is when I'm in alignment and I'm at a high vibration, and all those other things I do too to take care of my physical body.
So how does one get to a higher vibration? How does one elevate their vibration and allow it to stay there too? A lot of people, there's so many
Mhm.
people online talking about law of attraction, manifestation, but I've met and I've heard of a lot of people who will say that, but they don't know how to keep it there,
Yeah.
or they'll experience it in the crash, right? How does one raise their vibration and then is able to stay there?
Yeah, I mean, I think it is a practice that you hone very much. So to me, it's a combination of managing your thoughts, like making sure, like I had, because I had a very traumatic history, I realized I had this whole array of very negative thought patterns that I had to like weed out for many, many, many of the past years. And all of us have some of those. So managing thoughts is one of the biggest things because our basically I think that's pretty much why, like, you can sit and meditate and be feeling so good and then you stand up and then you're like out of it. It's not because you stood up, it's because you probably thought, oh no, I have to go to work now or something. It's really that those the thoughts that we think create everything. So um there's that, but there's also so much support, like sitting in meditation and doing Reiki or going within your Akashic records. Like that's what I teach to my students when they learn how to go in, is like sit in there, sit connected with your soul. It's like it's a soul path, a soul bath.
Mm-hmm.
So that helps raise your vibration. You can literally, like when you learn to get in connection, you can tell and you might even practice this right now, you can tell your soul and your angels, raise my vibration right now to the highest it can be, and sit and
Okay.
wait and let it be and trust it. Like you can do that and notice it. um, One of my friends uses numbers for this, and so you can do that and say, look, like learn to visualize or use a scale of 0 to 10 and learn what it feels like to be at a 10, learn what it feels like to be at a 5, and say, okay, body, mind, soul, angels, everything, raise me up to a 10 or a 100. Because it is a number. Everything is numbers. It is like, it's a frequency, like a radio station. So that
Mm-hmm.
that's one of that's the one that comes to mind for your listeners, for our listeners, that I guess is first and foremost. I would say practice that. Like sit and say to yourself, you're telling your body and your guides, raise my vibration now. I mean, you probably have to sit there a few minutes. It's not like you just jump up and, like, you focus on it and breathe and see the number rising and start to feel buzzy, that kind of thing. I also find that drawing a Reiki symbol helps too. I used to
Oh,
teach
cool.
lots of Reiki, but that's another. I would add that in there to anyone who knows Reiki symbols. What about you? What do you think, like, is the best way to keep in vibration?
Did your vibration get a serious boost from this week's podcast? I know mine did. And I'm willing to bet there's a whole community that also feels the same way. Wait, actually, there is a whole community. That's right. On Facebook, we now have the Transformation to Expansion community where we actually have weekly discussions about the podcast episodes, and we even try out the freebies all together as a community to help us stay accountable. So definitely go ahead and check that out. The link is in the description below, and I'll see y'all there. Peace. You asking me?
Mhm.
Oh no,
Yeah.
I'm just the host.
Oh, there's just so many ways.
Yeah, there's so many. One thing I will say though is a couple years ago now, time is like flying by. But about 2 years ago, I did this meditation where I visualized like my highest vibration, my highest like ambition. That's what I would say. That's how I would put it.
Mhm.
And I visualized me kind of not the end of it, because the end would technically be after I had done everything that I wanted to do, but kind of like in the, in the middle, maybe a little bit of the height. And so I'm sitting there, and I'm visualizing like me on stage. And I'm just really focused on the feeling of how I feel on stage, going through my music and singing and all of that stuff. And my ears started ringing really, really loudly. So it was really and the tingling sensation started happening. And this happened like so out of nowhere that I was like, oh my God. I
Wow.
just like woke up from it because I was like, this is intense.
Yeah.
Would you say that is how would you interpret that? That's how I'm gonna put it. How would you interpret that experience?
I would say you were in alignment with that version of yourself and you were in that potentiality and you were literally experiencing it. And I would say it's akin, it might not have been literal because it's akin to what you're doing now. You're on stage, so to speak. Clearly, you were in alignment with the part of you that is how I interpret that. And
Mm-hmm.
that's why it felt so good because it's a natural part of you. And I would say you pursue that like that was what I get is that was a revelation for you. And so keep pursuing your desire to be on stage on bigger and bigger stages
Mm-hmm.
because that is natural to you, and that path then will roll out for you when you keep your focus on it. So
Mm.
they're saying that to you very purposefully, um, and allow that the desire that kind of generates to become even helps raise your vibration because it's it's about the feeling that you cultivated by experiencing that, and you can have more and more and more of that. So there's something to that very specific, and I'm glad you allowed me to interpret that because um, do you let me just ask if you feel in your body like the alignment, like I feel in your feet, which is like a buzzy kind of connection. Do you happen to feel that at all?
I mean, now that you say it, I'm more aware of it. Yeah, it's like a little tingly. Yeah.
Yeah. So my that's just how my body often will, and my guides talk to me like that. That's their quick way of saying that this is your soul path to be on stage. And so
Mm.
what you're doing right now and what you have been doing and have done, it's pretty glorious. But if I were you, I'd really pursue that because it could even be like singing too. Or do you sing?
Yeah, no, yeah. So I didn't give out too many details because, like, I think I'm not. I'm either shy or maybe doubting that aspect of myself because I do so much and I love what
Mhm.
I do, and it's just who I am. I'm just one of those people. I'm gonna have five different, like I already know, I'm gonna have five different businesses. Well, I'm
Mhm.
probably gonna have more because some of them are gonna fail. Like but it's just like I'm
Yeah.
that type. Like I wanna live like a sailboat life sometime in my life. I'm just one of those people. I want to live 1,000 lives in this one lifetime, and I think I have the ability to do that. And I've already, I was a backpacker for a couple of years. And so it's like, I already have that. So I don't like to say it a lot because, there's always going to be people who be like, you can't do all of that. What are you're doing a podcast now? But like, there's always that little part of me. So I try to hide it a lot. Healing people, not just through the show, but also just on stage. But one of the things that I've come to realize is that, we don't control the how. And there's
Mhm.
so many people don't realize that there's millions of ways to get it to a destination. Everybody's trying to, get to the same place or get to a certain destination using the same highway. And my little theory is that if you take the back roads, there's less traffic and it's a lot more beautiful. You take the scenic route. So,
I love it. Yeah,
yeah, right?
that's so true. It's a lot more green and
Yeah, exactly. It's ugly. Yeah, come on now. Who will take the highway the whole time?
yeah.
So I'm just trusting. It's like a whole thing because yeah, a lot of people are like, you don't put out music, but I'm like, you know what? I never stop songwriting. I never stop
Oh
singing.
my
So you know what? It'll come when it comes. I'm not gonna try to control how it's gonna get here.
God. You'll know. You'll be in.
But yeah, I want to heal people. But anyway, it goes deep. It's not just like about me being on stage and me being famous. It's really, I don't know, maybe this is like not the right reason, but really it's to really help people raise their vibration. And but that's always been a conflict for me because I'm like, am I allowed to influence? I even asked, like I went to Thailand and asked a monk, like a master monk. I literally asked, I'm so insecure about it. I'm like, am I allowed to influence the masses? Like,
Uh-huh.
is that okay? And even the monk was just like, well, if it's for good, then it's okay. But I'm like, yeah, but is it like, how should I do this? I get so like philosophical about this stuff because I think I'm also really scared to like do something
Mhm.
wrong um in God's
Uh,
eyes and the creator's eyes. But at the end of the day, people say you can't do anything wrong technically. So I'm like,
yeah. Yeah. If it's meant to be, it will. And yeah, I believe I believe it's only going to be received where it's welcome and it's not going to
mhm.
do any harm. Someone,
Yeah.
like there's with healers like you and me and probably tons of your listeners, there's not no part of us it like is at all intentionally doing harm, and we
Mhm.
can't. It's not like who we are. So like follow your gut, because if you're guided to you know do something for the whole world, do it, because there's a reason you're guided to do it. Like send energy to the whole
Yeah.
world or whatever, or to someone specific.
A lot of people are coming into a time where they don't know their purpose or they feel like they lost their purpose. How does one really tap into being more in alignment with their purpose, and their specific purpose, right? Not just saying, looking at your chart and saying, oh, well, you have this in your 10th house. So something in the technology field, like that's pretty broad, right? Like it's just like, it's not very specific, but how does somebody know like what their true like specific purpose is? Or is
Mhm.
it just whatever you feel you want to do?
Well, I think a lot of it is what you want to do. By and large, we're guided by our desires, and our desires are very purposeful. And when you're following your deep desires, and because you really want to do that, then I believe that you're following your purpose. I believe our purpose can change over our lifetime. I believe we can have more than one purpose. Um, Overall, we're talking about the Akashic Records. Sometimes the guides in the Akashic Records will come through very, very clearly with the soul's purpose from the perspective of what they planned for themselves before they incarnated. And when that happens in a reading, it's a very powerful moment, because that is something that's we would say by divine decree. Like I decided to come here to fulfill this kind of purpose, and I'm going to do that. Now it can be fulfilled in so many ways also. So like one of my main purposes is to be a teacher, and that's one of my that's literally written in my soul contract. And there's so many ways that I can teach and choose to teach and want to teach. And so it's tied, I believe it's very tied to what your soul wants you to experience in this lifetime, and in like inspiring you into a purpose. You're like fulfilled, you're really getting fulfilled and satisfied when you follow it. So whatever calling that is. Um, and it doesn't have to be like service, like changing, healing people or anything, or teaching. It can be like, my purpose is to be a loving person, or to
Mm-hmm.
love animals, or to tend to animals, or or my purpose is to travel to every country in the world. Like, it can be, I've seen lots of different versions, and it's very, very individual.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of the day, it gets back to following your own heart, and what feels right, and what is right for you at that time, and what lights you up. Um, like, that's going to make you successful, I believe, because you're going to want to do it. You're going to have the moxie to do it. You're going to want to put the time into it. Um, all kinds of things. Purpose, So it can be so many different things, but that's a great question.
Yeah, just following your heart, following what lights you up, what gets you excited. Which is interesting because sometimes that can change, and it can always go back. But I've just
Mhm.
experienced, there's times where, like, for example, there's a book that I'm writing. I don't think it's gonna be done for a couple of years. I'm not trying to power through, I'm not trying to do that. But
Mhm.
since last year, which I guess is just 2 years now, I just get a wind of, okay, time to add to the book. And it's not even a wind, it becomes all encompassing. Like, I'm just like,
Mhm.
all I'm thinking
Yeah.
about is the book. All I want to do is write. All I want to do is add. What's the character's gonna do next? And then it'll leave, like, in probably like a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Sometimes it can be like that too, right?
Yeah. And would you say that is your purpose, or part of your purpose?
Oh, girl, don't even. We went over this already. I have a lot of stuff I want to do. Like, this is like, I don't know how else to say
So
it. It's
part
like,
of it.
this just happened. This wasn't even intentional, because there's a couple of books, graphic, whatever they're gonna become. There's a couple of stories that I do want to tell, and those, it wasn't like this. Like, this was kind of the first time in my life where I woke up and I had like this dream, and I was like, oh, this would be a good story. Let's just write it. I was literally the first time in my life, because I've had other dreams where I'm like, oh, that would be a great movie. That would be a great story. I never wrote, never woke up and started writing. I was like, oh, that'd be good. Maybe I'll do it later. I never did it. This was the first time where I had woke up. I was like, that would be a great story. And I just started writing it. That's it. It's
Yeah,
really weird because I have
that's
other
awesome.
stuff, other concepts, and other stories that I do want to tell. That I think, in my opinion, would be even bigger than this book that I'm writing. But no, there's just a lot of stuff that I want to do because I've just seen so much of Earth,
Yeah,
and I think at the end of the day, I really want to empower people to see how beautiful. Oh, I'm crying. I really want to empower people to see how beautiful. Like, this world is so so beautiful. Like, people don't. I don't know. Like, I
yeah,
just I don't. It's hard. I mean, I'm definitely speaking from like a place of privilege, and like, I was a military brat, so I traveled around the world when I was growing up, and then my mom also values experiences, so we would do certain things, um and but the world is so beautiful, and I really want to like tell stories to
yeah.
help people see. Like, there's like stuff that I'm writing where I'm like, people are gonna, like, when I drop it or when I release it, people are like, oh my god, how'd you come up with this? And I'm like, these are real places. Like, I want to be able to say, this is a real place I went to. This is where it is on the map. You can go see it.
Yeah.
This is not, it is technically a fantasy, but this is based off of like an
Oh,
actual thing. Yeah, Earth is just, it's just so beautiful. But yeah, like I said, there's a lot of things that, I
mhm.
have a long life, so I know what'll happen.
I do have a little something with Mary Magdalene, to share about purpose. She is really known for teaching us that we are both divine and human. And, we are God in a body. We are a soul in a body. And what she's saying, if do you mind if I just tune? I'm going to
Girl,
tune.
go ahead. She calling. You go ahead. It's her
Okay,
show
so
now.
I'm going to do a little light language. And so actually, this is going to be a little, for anyone who hears this, it's going to be an activation, like we talked about, towards your soul purpose connection, whatever that is. So actually, it's a beautiful gift from her in the universe. So kani apa kia na oria kawania apa kaania tapaka aya kira. So it's our great privilege to show you a little something about yourselves. You are these magnificent.
Have you ever felt like you're meant for more? You're here for a reason. Something inside of you knows that there's more. There's more purpose, there's more connection, there's more fulfillment, there's more love to be enjoyed in this life. What if all of that was here right now? Your life easier to navigate, your dreams easier to manifest. You can live in a life of ease, even in these uncertain times with Pluto being in Aquarius. Your community of expansion is right here at your fingertips. From the moment you enter, you feel the sense of release and comfort. No more wondering if all those downloads you got as a kid were just random thoughts. No more wondering that time you had telepathy, thinking that it was just a fluke. Be with the people you know are here for you. Join our ever-expanding community on Patreon for free. And for those of you who ask, yes, the Wellness Library is included. I love y'all so much. Let's get back to the show. Peace.
Beings in a beautiful heavenly body that is also the container of a heavenly source. And the merging of that heaven and earth, you are your own heaven, you are your own earth. That is what many of you are coming into realization about at this time. Call it ascension, call it the Great Awakening. There are many people calling it many things, but consider this, that your greatest purpose could be the realization of your own self as a divine one, as a divine being that is in every way equal to all the beings that have walked before you and all the beings that guide you. And because we are all brothers and sisters and we are all in oneness. And we would, if you have inherited in your gene code a purpose related to any of this, then this is being activated. And by and large, if you're listening to this at all at any time, that this is part of your gene code and gene keys that we are turning on for you via this transmission, because the time is now to awaken within your body, within your heart, within your mind, within your voice, within your senses, awaken the soul's passion. And that was from, Mary Magdalene is speaking from our perspective. You all know much about the stories from 2,000 years ago about the passion that Yeshua had for this world, and that passion and compassion never left. It never left his soul. It never left this planet. And passion is one of the most important aspects of being a realized human divine one, if you will. You all are that. We're talking about being realized, knowing that you are human and divine, and realizing it and letting yourself, for instance, see from those eyes, like LaJoie is talking about. See how beautiful the world is, but see how beautiful you are. And your passion comes from, if you're seeking what is your passion, what is your purpose, it comes innately from this divine inner world that we're emphasizing, give attention to, give credence to, feed and nourish, because it will be your best friend and it will be your best super highway to channel the life that you love, that you came here to live. So we wanted to share that with you. This has been both an attunement and a message. And we wish you all the light and love of the divine in you that the divine in us sees very, very, very brilliantly. You are all brilliant, brilliant ones, and we walk with you every day. Namaste. Okay. Oh, there we go. I'm glad that came through. I wasn't sure if a transmission would come through. There might be more, but um, yeah, I'm glad you asked that. And that's yeah. Do you have any questions about it? It made sense. It was it's just a blessing. I think I know it's a blessing to all listeners to follow this activation, follow your passion, let it speak to you, and let it guide you.
Yeah, I think it's a good reminder for everybody, even for myself too, because we forget. It's so, I mean, it's going away, but this construct tries really hard to make us forget who we are. So it's always great to be reminded.
It tries, but it only, we don't have to let it. And if we determine not to let it, and one of the things we can do is just constantly say, I know who I am. I say that
Mm-hmm.
like every day because it's a key code. Actually, there's a vibrational resonance with saying, I know who I am, that, you know, that cannot be broken. Um, that is like it creates a solidity within us. So when the world is getting you down, that's one thing you can do is connect to that part of you by saying, I know who I am. And sometimes I repeat it several times. The way it works is with like the energy of such sincerity and taking the time to do it. Um, and even from there, like if we want to continue our theme, our our passion and our purpose come from knowing who we are deeply.
Yeah, if you connect deep enough, you'll find yourself at the source. I think that's the best way to put it.
Yeah, you are source, and yeah, we are source, and if we connect deeply enough, we'll really realize that.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, because we are, no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
I'm using the word realizing as in like understanding or knowing that we are, and going deep. And I agree. Like when you go deep within, you can feel it,
Exactly.
and then believe it, and then know it even more. It tends to be how it works for me.
Yeah, I mean, we're all the source, but here to have different experiences.
Hmm.
You talked a little bit about your soul contract when you access, you're able to access the Akashic Records. You're also able to access what a person's soul, what their soul agreement
Hmm.
was before they incarnated here on Earth. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah. It's one of the most fascinating things that you can attain literally from your Akashic records.